I am the Watcher. I observe all that transpires across the multiverse. Today, I share a reality where genius met mysticism, where Tony Stark's dying arc reactor led him not to a new element, but to an ancient power. What if the armored Avenger became Earth's Sorcerer Supreme? What if Iron Man learned that magic and technology were merely different languages, describing the same cosmic truth?
The orange sparks cascade across the New York skyline like 1,000 falling stars, each one a fragment of mystical energy torn from the shields Tony Stark desperately maintains. The year is 2018. Manhattan trembles as Ebony Maw's telekinetic assault crashes against barriers that shouldn't exist. Barriers made of both light and code, magic and mathematics. Tony hovers above the chaos, the cloak of levitation billowing beneath his Mark 50 armor like crimson wings of an iron phoenix. His arc reactor pulses in perfect synchronization with the Eye of Agamotto hanging against his chest plate.
Friday. Calculate the geometric probability of the next...
Already on it, boss. Moore's attack pattern suggests a 73% chance he'll strike from your 7 o'clock.
Tony spins, and where science meets sorcery, innovation is born. His repulsor beam channels through a mystical mandala, transforming into a golden whip of pure energy that catches Maw's projectile mid-flight. The alien sorcerer's eyes widen. This isn't the Stephen Strange he was briefed about. This is something else entirely, something more dangerous. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. To understand how Tony Stark became Earth's Sorcerer Supreme, we need to go back 7 years. Back to when a dying billionaire's desperation met ancient wisdom, and the Marvel Universe changed forever. Picture this: 2010. Tony Stark sits in his Malibu workshop watching his own death creep across his chest in dark spiderweb veins. The palladium core keeping him alive is simultaneously killing him, and his usual genius has hit a wall. He's tried every element, every configuration, every scientific solution his brilliant mind can conceive. The party in Monaco, the drunken birthday bash in the armor, they're all just a man's way of saying goodbye. But Natasha Romanoff, still playing assistant Natalie Rushman at this point, slips him something different than in our timeline. Not just Howard Stark's old films and formulas, but a SHIELD file marked with symbols that predate any language she recognizes.
Fury thought you might find this interesting. Something about an energy source in Nepal that doesn't follow conventional physics. A place called Kamartaj.
Pepper finds him packing 3 days later, arc reactor glowing dimly against his deteriorating chest.
It's probably nothing. Some monks who think they can cure cancer with meditation and green tea. But what the hell, right? I've tried particle physics. Maybe it's time for some particle metaphysics.
The journey to Kathmandu is different when you arrive in a private jet rather than as a broken surgeon. Tony steps out in his Tom Ford suit, skepticism wrapped around him like armor. The streets are the same chaos of color and life, but he navigates them with the confidence of a man who's faced down terrorists and won. When he reaches the doorstep of Kamartaj, he doesn't beg. He knocks with the authority of someone who's used to doors opening for him. Carl Mordo answers, and immediately there's friction.
We don't typically accept tourists.
Good thing I'm not typical.
That's when the Ancient One appears, bald head gleaming, eyes holding the weight of centuries. She looks at him, through him, into timelines and possibilities that branch like neural pathways across the multiverse.
Mr. Stark, I've been expecting you, though perhaps not quite so soon.
Liking this story so far? Well, it would mean a lot to our channel if you could hit that subscribe button and share with your marvelous friends. Okay, back to the story. The first lesson is brutal in its simplicity. The Ancient One leads Tony to the training courtyard where students practice forms that look like Tai Chi had a baby with geometry.
Magic is the programming language of reality, but unlike your computers, Mr. Stark, the universe doesn't respond to ego, only to surrender.
Surrender isn't exactly in my vocabulary. I prefer strategic acquisition.
The Ancient One's smile is patient, almost sad. With a gesture that seems casual, she strikes his chest and suddenly, Tony is falling backward, but his body stays standing. His astral form tumbles through dimensions, through the quantum realm he won't officially discover for years, through dark spaces between atoms where things with too many eyes watch and wait. He sees his arc reactor from the inside, not just the palladium and circuitry, but the energy itself, the fundamental forces he's been playing with, like toys. When he snaps back into his body, he's on his knees, gasping. The Ancient One kneels beside him.
You've spent your life building shields against death, Tony Stark. But magic requires you to accept that death is merely a doorway. Your reactor is failing because you're fighting the energy instead of flowing with it.
The training that follows would break a lesser man. Tony's hands, so steady when building impossibly small circuits, shake as he tries to form his first portal. Other students snicker watching Iron Man fail at parlor tricks. Mordo especially seems to enjoy Tony's struggles.
You're cheating.
I prefer optimizing. Besides, if the universe didn't want me to hack it, it should have used better encryption.
The Ancient One watches this exchange with interest. That night she shows Tony something that changes everything, the Eye of Agamotto.
Time is just another dimension to be manipulated. Your technology seeks to control time through speed and processing power. Magic controls it through will and wisdom.
Tony stares at the stone, and in his eyes she sees not greed, but genuine wonder.
It's beautiful. The energy signature. It's like looking at the source code of existence.
Most would say it's dangerous.
Most people haven't been living with a miniature sun in their chest. Dangerous is relative.
6 months pass. The palladium poisoning that should have killed Tony has been held at bay through a combination of mystical healing and good old-fashioned Stark innovation. He's discovered that the new element his father hinted at isn't just a physical compound. It's a fusion of matter and mystical energy, something that exists in the space between science and sorcery. The new arc reactor he builds doesn't just power his suit, it channels dimensional energy like a technological Eye of Agamotto. When Loki arrives in 2012 with the Chitauri, the Avengers face a very different Tony Stark. Picture the Battle of New York, but now Tony can open portals. As Captain America struggles with 3 Chitauri soldiers, a golden gateway opens beside him, and Tony's repulsor beam shoots through from a completely different angle, taking them down.
Stark, what the hell was that?
Would you believe magic? Because that's literally what it is, and we don't have time for your skepticism right now.
The Hulk smashes through buildings, while Tony opens portals beneath falling debris, sending it harmlessly into the desert. Thor's lightning channels through mystical circles Tony creates, amplifying into weapons that tear through Chitauri leviathans, like tissue paper. And when the nuclear missile comes, Tony doesn't just carry it through the wormhole. He uses the time stone techniques the Ancient One has been teaching him to slow his own temporal flow, giving him precious extra seconds to ensure the missile reaches its target. But it's after the battle where things truly diverge from what we know. Tony doesn't just go home with PTSD. He returns to Camartage with a warning.
Something's coming. Something worse than Loki. I saw a purple titan. He's collecting stones like the one in your amulet.
Thanos. Yes, I've seen him in possible futures. In most of them, we lose.
Then we change the odds. We prepare. We get better. We get magical.
The Ancient One's death comes in 2015, not during a battle with Caecilius, who never turned in this timeline, but peacefully, having spent her remaining years preparing Tony for the mantle. She passes not just the Eye of Agamotto, but also the Cloak of Levitation, which had been waiting centuries for a worthy master, waiting perhaps for someone who could unite 2 worlds.
Strange was meant to be the best of us. But you're something different. You're the bridge between what was and what will be. The cloak has chosen. Protect them, Tony. Protect everything.
Tony inherits not just artifacts, but responsibility. He maintains the New York Sanctum while also being an Avenger, creating a unique hybrid role that shouldn't exist, but does. When Ultron happens, because of course it still happens, Tony's ego transcends mystical enlightenment. The aftermath is different. Tony uses mass teleportation spells to evacuate Sokovia's citizens before the city even starts to lift. The death toll is minimal, but the weight of his failure hits differently when you can literally see the branching timelines where things went right.
You saw this possibility. You could have prevented it.
I saw dozens of possibilities. In half of them, preventing Ultron meant preventing Vision. In the others, nuclear winters, biological plagues, unchecked human warfare. There's no perfect path, only the least terrible one.
The Sokovia Accords still come, but now they must account for not just enhanced individuals, but magical practitioners. Tony stands before the United Nations, armor gleaming under the lights, the Eye of Agamotto displayed prominently on his chest.
Magic is real. I know that's hard to accept. A year ago, I would have laughed at anyone who said it. But we need to acknowledge that the universe is bigger and stranger than we imagined.
Steve Rogers watches his friend with deep concern.
You're playing with forces beyond your understanding, Tony.
I understand them perfectly. That's what terrifies me.
By 2018, Tony has become something unprecedented. A techno-mage whose armor incorporates both nanotechnology and mystical runes, whose AI Friday can calculate probability matrices for spells, whose very existence proves that science and magic are just different languages, describing the same cosmic code. When Bruce Banner crashes through the Sanctum Sanctorum's roof, he doesn't find Stephen Strange. He finds Tony Stark in meditation, surrounded by holographic displays showing mystical energy patterns across the globe.
Tony, thank God. I was looking for Strange, but...
Strange is still performing surgery on Park Avenue. In this timeline, I'm the mystical defender you're looking for. Now tell me about Thanos. Tell me everything.
The Black Order's arrival in New York plays out like a symphony, where Tony knows every note. When Ebony Maw begins his telekinetic assault, Tony's already prepared counterspells.
Hear me and rejoice.
Pass. I've already heard this speech in 14 million different versions. It doesn't get better with repetition.
But knowledge of failure is still failure anticipated. Despite Tony's preparations, despite his power, Thanos still wins on Titan. The difference is in the details. Tony fights with everything. Nanoparticles forming mystical weapons, the Time Stone accelerating his thoughts to process thousands of combat scenarios per second, portals opening to drop Thanos into the heart of stars. It's not enough. Thanos still claims the Time Stone, ripping it from the Eye of Agamotto, leaving Tony defeated but alive, part of the one future that leads to victory. As Peter Parker dissolves in his arms, because some moments are fixed points in the cosmic tapestry, Tony doesn't just feel grief. He feels the weight of knowing this was the only way.
Tony, I don't feel so good.
I know, kid, I know. But I promise you, I swear on everything I've learned, everything I've seen, this isn't the end. We're going to bring you back, all of you.
5 years pass. Tony retires to his cabin like in the timeline we know, but instead of purely technological research, he spends these years preparing the ultimate fusion of science and sorcery. His daughter Morgan grows up watching her father practice spells that look like constellations, building devices that blur the line between invention and enchantment. When Scott Lang emerges from the quantum realm with his time heist proposal, Tony doesn't hesitate. He's been expecting this.
Time travel! We can go back
and get the stones before Thanos. I know. I've run the calculations, both quantum and mystical. It's possible, but the cost is always the same.
The time heist happens, but with Tony's magical abilities, certain moments change. When they travel to 2012 New York, Tony doesn't just rely on sleight of hand to steal the Tesseract. He uses actual magic to become invisible, to phase through walls, to be in two places at once. The Ancient One of that timeline, meeting him on the rooftop, recognizes him immediately.
So, you're the one, the successor I haven't chosen yet. Tell me, how do I die?
Peacefully, in your sleep, dreaming of a better tomorrow.
Take care of them, Tony Stark. In your timeline, the bill always comes due.
The final battle against Thanos is where everything changes, and yet remains the same. Picture it. Thanos' army descending on the destroyed Avengers compound. Captain America stands alone against impossible odds. Then the portals open. Not just Wong and the other sorcerers of Kamartaj, but Tony himself, floating cross-legged in the air, the cloak of levitation spread wide, his armor gleaming with mystical runes that pulse with the power of collected cosmic energy. His suit explodes into action, not just repulsors and missiles, but technologically enhanced spells. Nanoparticles form mystical shields for allies, create portals that redirect enemy fire back on itself, manifest solid holograms that fight with the strength of the real thing. Tony Stark has become the ultimate synthesis of everything humanity can achieve, science and magic unified in one impossible moment. But Thanos is still Thanos. The Titan gets the gauntlet, raises his hand for the snap that will end everything.
I am inevitable.
And Tony knows this moment. He's seen it 14,605 times. He knows there's only one way this ends. The nanoparticles shift, the stones transfer, and Tony Stark stands with the power of the universe humming through his mortal form. But this time, there's a difference. The Time Stone responds to his trained will. The Reality Stone recognizes his mastery over dimensional space. The Power Stone channels through an arc reactor designed to handle impossible energies. He doesn't just snap. He rewrites reality with the precision of a programmer and the will of a sorcerer.
I am Iron Man.
In that moment, he's more. He's the Sorcerer Supreme, the merchant of death become the architect of life, the futurist who's seen all futures and chosen this one. The snap happens. Thanos and his army dissolve into cosmic dust. But Tony doesn't die immediately. His mystical training, his technological enhancements, his sheer stubborn will buy him minutes instead of seconds. Enough time for goodbyes. Enough time for one last lesson.
Wong, the mantle, it's yours now, but not all of it. Save some for Morgan. She'll need it. Protect them. Protect everything.
He transfers what he can. Core spells, essential techniques, the wisdom to blend technology and magic. It flows from him in streams of golden light, and Wong receives it with tears streaming down his face.
Thank you, Tony, for everything.
And Tony Stark, genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist, sorcerer supreme, finally does. The funeral is different. Alongside the arc reactor floating on the lake, mystical sparks rise into the air. Every sorcerer on Earth casting light into the sky. A final salute to the man who proved that science and magic are just different words for wonder. In the end, Stephen Strange remains a brilliant surgeon, his hands steady and unbroken. But somewhere in the multiverse, he perhaps glimpses through surgical precision a moment of impossible possibility. A world where Tony Stark bent reality itself to his will and saved everyone. Morgan Stark grows up with Friday's holographic training programs and Wong's weekly visits, learning that magic and technology aren't opposites. They're dance partners in the cosmic ballet of existence. She builds her first arc reactor at age 10. She opens her first portal at age 12. Wong teaches her the responsibility that comes with power, sharing stories of her father's sacrifice and wisdom.
Your father proved something important, that the future isn't about choosing between science or magic. It's about using both to protect what matters.
The future is bright. The future is protected. The future is everything Tony Stark lived and died to ensure. The screen fades to black. The music swells. Part orchestral, part electronic, pure Marvel magic. If you enjoyed this journey into the shadows of what might have been, remember to hit that subscribe button and join us for more explorations of the infinite, wonderful, and marvelous possibilities.